Let's talk about inferences questions. These questions are quite frequent on SAT. In every English module, you will see at least two or sometimes even three questions that talk about inferences. The best way to deal with these questions is to read the text very carefully, understand the summary of it, and then try to identify what can be correctly deduced from this. The most important thing to remember here is to make sure you are not finding something that is mentioned in the text, you're finding something that can be rightly deduced or rightly inferred from the text. Let's try to understand the topic of inferences using a question from one of the college board mocks. The question says which choice most logically completes the text. So this is the way most of the times inferences questions will be framed. Let's look at the passage quickly. In documents called judicial opinions, judges explain the reasoning behind their legal ruling, and in those explanations, they sometimes cite and discuss historical contemporary philosophers. Legal scholar and philosopher Anita L. Allen argues that while judges are naturally inclined to mention philosophers whose view align with their with their own positions, the strongest judicial opinions consider and rebut potential objections. Discussing philosophers whose view conflict with judges' views could therefore. So we need to identify what the author of the text or Anita Allen wants to conclude from this. So the first sentence talks about judges use uh, citings from other historical philosophers or contemporary philosophers in their ruling. And the second sentence says that the judges use those citings that are matching with their own positions. And then the author suggests that if judges consider the rebuttal or try to identify objections that come to that argument, then that kind of judgments would be more helpful, would be more, you can say, uh, those can be considered potential, those can be considered, let's say, good decisions. Okay, so let's look at the last part one more time. It says the strongest judicial opinions consider and rebut. So if your opinion is strong, it would definitely consider and rebut potential objections. So here we need to identify an example, let's say, or explanation that is supporting that judges accept or consider other opinions and then rebut them. It means they prove the other opinions, contradictory opinions, wrong. So let's try to work on the answer choices now. First option says allow judges to craft judicial opinions without needing to consult philosophical works. This is completely contradicting because we already know that the judges consult philosophical works. So option A cannot be your answer at all. Option B says help judges improve the arguments they put forward in their judicial opinions. Now, this looks good, so we'll hold on to it for a moment. Option C says make judicial opinions more comprehensible to readers without legal or philosophical training. Now, the text is not about whether the judgment should be understandable or comprehensible to people or readers. So, this is irrelevant. So, option C we can cross out. Option D says bring judicial opinions in line with views that are broadly held among philosophers. Now, this is again contradicting. Okay, because the opinions are based on the judges choose their opinions or judges choose their rulings based on the philosophical things. Now, option D is saying bring judicial opinions in line with views that are broadly held among. Now, this is we are not discussing this broad thing. This is too vague here. So option D also we can cross out. The right answer here has to be help judges improve the arguments they put forward in their judicial opinions. Well, now what does this mean? That if judges put forward an opinion or they put forward a judgment, and while giving the judgment, they are also citing uh, philosophers or contemporary philosophers or historical philosophers, and it is also saying that they are choosing those philosophers that are aligning with their own position. Now, the second part is if the philosophers, if the judges are considering and rebutting the potential objections to their judgments and then proving them wrong. then the judgment would be more helpful. And that's what option B matches with. Help judges improve the argument. So if they are considering the other side, they are actually improving the argument they're putting forward. The right answer here has to be option